Good morning, St. Ignatius. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in and watch our morning assembly live, remote learning style. This is Mrs. Kane, and we're going to be having some time to look at this Sunday's gospel reading, sing our Lenten songs, and have some reflection time. Thanks for tuning in. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John. Glory to you, O Lord. The sisters of Lazarus sent word to Jesus, saying, Master, the one you love is ill. When Jesus heard this, he said, The illness is not to end in death, but is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and his sister Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was. Then after this he said to his disciples, Let us go back to Judea. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. When Martha had heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him. But Mary sat at home. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give to you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise. Martha said, I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord. I've come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world. He became perturbed and deeply troubled and said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Sir, come and see. And Jesus wept. So the Jews said, See how he loved him? But some of them said, Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died? So Jesus, perturbed again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay across it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the dead man's sister, said to him, Lord, by now there will be such a stench. He has been dead for 4 days. And Jesus said to her, Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So they took away the stone, and Jesus raised his eyes and said, Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know that you always hear me. But because of the crowd here, I have said this, that they may believe that you sent me. And when he had said this, he cried out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out! The dead man came out, tied hand and foot with burial bands, and his face was wrapped in a cloth. So Jesus said to them, Untie him and let him go. Now many of the Jews who had come to Mary and seen what he had done began to believe in him. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. So this is normally the time in the assembly when I would ask you to raise your hand if you went to Mass with your family this weekend, but I know that none of you went to Mass with your families this weekend because we're all at home. So instead, I'm going to ask you to look at an image with me and explore some of the things that we see about this image. And what's interesting is I'll just give you a clue right away. The image that you're going to look at is a picture of St. Ignatius, and it's during the time when he was recovering from an injury he received at war. So I want you to pay attention a little bit to the things that you see in this image. Okay, so here's our image. The artist of this painting is Albert Chevalier Taylor, and he drew this picture of the time when St. Ignatius was injured from a battle and recovering at his home in Loyola, Spain. Now, what you need to know is before the time of this painting, St. Ignatius, who wasn't, of course, a saint yet, was injured in a battle at Pamplona, where his leg was shattered by a cannonball. Now, before this time, St. Ignatius was a very vain man. He was young, he wanted honor and glory, he wanted to win battles and be the greatest swordsman. He was very social and very into the ladies. Suddenly, his whole world came crumbling down when his leg was shattered by a cannonball. What do you notice about what you see in this picture? Take a couple minutes to point some things out with the people around you. Now, how many of you noticed St. Ignatius' injured leg wrapped up with some bandages? Or a table beside him with some food? Or maybe you noticed the musical instrument in the corner, a window up to the center of the picture, a candlestick, what looks like some clothes on the floor, a picture that he's looking at. Maybe you notice that he's holding a book. What about this picture strikes you or makes you think of the times that we're in right now? Here's what I notice. St. Ignatius is very much in a quarantine situation in this picture. Suddenly his old life has fallen away. He doesn't have social anymore. He knows that he's probably never going to be the greatest swordsman. And here he is, stuck in his room by himself for what ends up being months, left with just the few possessions that he has and the few people that he has close to him for company. Well, what we know about this experience is this was St. Ignatius' transformational experience. Everything changed in this room where St. Ignatius spent his quarantine. Here we see him reading a book, and we know from history that the book he was reading was called The Lives of the Saints. And somehow, in reading that book, he started to hear God's voice. God was speaking to him and asking him to take a look at his life and consider a different path, to consider a change. When I think about this picture and I think about the state of the world, I notice that we share an experience with St. Ignatius and that we're all, in a way, stuck in our own homes with our own people and our own things and forced to slow down a little bit. All Lent at St. Ignatius so far, we've been talking about change. If you've been listening, you've been paying attention, that we say during Lent it's a time to turn to God, a time to let God work through us and change us. And any time we're changing, because we're changing all the time, whether we like it or not, we can change for the good, for the bad, or somewhere in the middle. The best thing we can do is change for the good. So, I don't think anyone quite expected our Lent to turn out the way that it's turning out. But I challenge you to think about the ways that God is speaking to you right now. The way that God is asking you to pay attention to things that you might not have paid attention to before. I know for me, this last week, I spent time making a birthday cake for someone in my family. Now, normally when I make a birthday cake, I'm rushed, trying to figure out how I'm going to fit it into my day, feeling guilty about whether it's going to come from a box cake or whether I'm going to make it from scratch. But this spring break, I had time to just make a birthday cake. And while I was mixing up the ingredients, I spent time thinking about the person I was making the cake for. I spent time thinking about all the moments that we'd shared together and all the things that we would share together as we celebrated the birthday. It was a transformational experience for me because I was able to slow down and see God in something as simple as making a cake. I wonder if you've had some of those same experiences these past few days. Have you had experiences where you saw God in places that you didn't see him before? You see, no matter what we're going through in our lives, God is always going to reach out and try to talk to us through them. Whether we're busy or not, whether we're working hard or not, with our families, with our friends, God is always trying to talk to us. As you look at this picture of St. Ignatius, think about the ways that God is trying to speak to him in this moment. Is it through the art that he's looking at? The book that he's reading? Maybe the light that's coming through the window, or the music that might play on the musical instrument in the corner. God is speaking to us all the time. And St. Ignatius listened. After this moment in his life, actually not a moment, it was quite a long time. It was actually months that he spent in isolation, in his home, recovering from his injury. But everything changed after that. Now, everything might not change for us drastically, but we know that God is changing us all the time. And in the situation we find ourselves in today, we know that he is working and changing us and giving us the opportunity to see him in new ways. Pay attention to how you're going to see God in your life this week and in the next weeks. All right, everybody. Before we end our assembly with a song, I want to encourage everybody to reach their Magis this week. I know this isn't our normal learning environment, but your teachers have been working so hard to make sure that you have everything you need to be successful in your learning. Do your best, reach your Magis. Know that it's not going to be the same as learning in a classroom, but we can still learn things and grow. Everybody, kindergarten, preschool through 5th grade, should have a remote learning plan. So make sure you have that printed and handy. That will help guide you through your week. If you're in preschool through 5th grade, log into Seesaw. If you're in 6th or 8th grade, go to your portals to see your assignments for the week. Make sure you're checking in with your homeroom class weekly Zoom meeting. The times were sent to you by your homeroom teacher, and your individual or small group check-ins with your teacher or aide. We know that you guys are going to do a great job. This is our test to show that we really mean what we say when we're reaching for our Magis. Because it's not always going to be easy, but I know that you can do it. We've got this, St. Ignatius. We can do it. We're together in spirit. I'm praying for all of you. We're going to be moving on to our closing song, Open My Eyes. I know everybody knows this well. So please sing along. Please sign along. You know the signs. Open my eyes, Lord. Help me to see your face. And all the other verses. So sign along, and I'm praying for all of you.
Open my eyes, Lord. Help me to see your face. Open my eyes, Lord. Help me to see. Open my ears, Lord. Help me to hear your voice. Open my ears, Lord. Help me to hear. Open my heart, Lord. Help me to love like you. Open my heart, Lord. Help me to love. I live within you, deep in your heart, oh love. I live within you. Rest now in me. Open my eyes, Lord. Help me to see your face. Open my eyes, Lord. Help me to see.
Have a great day, Grey Wolves. Make sure to tune in to our Mass this Thursday at 2:20 on the Holy Apostles Facebook page. And join us again next Monday for our weekly assembly.